Hi, just a quick one. This is fair use for educational purposes. Um, I remember this from the other week. I've been watching Phuket Word video called the C Word Debt Slavery Agenda um, from yesterday. And it mentions stuff about an insurance policy and everything else and 12 weeks and everything, and I think it's a bit of a coincidence that, and I don't believe in coincidences. There is no coincidences. But UK can turn the tide in the next 12 weeks, Boris Johnson says. So he's saying that they can turn the tide in the next 12 weeks. But then it says downward slope by the end of June, right? And I'll leave a link to this. So they can turn the tide against the C word in the next 12 weeks, but subsequently admitted the government don't know how long the crisis will last for, right? But I'm going to go to there. And this is the Pandemic Emergency Financing Facility from the World Bank, right? It's all about an insurance policy, basically. Pandemic bonds. It's a controversial financing mechanism intended to assist governments and aid agencies with the management of a pandemic outbreak. It's provided by the World Bank, which raised the majority of the money by issuing $320 million in bonds and $105 million in swaps to private investors, which can be seen as a type of catastrophe bond, right? Additional funding was provided by approximately $190 million in donations from three countries and the World Bank's International Development Association. Jim Yong Kim, the president of the World Bank at the time the bonds were issued, described the program as leveraging our capital market expertise to serve the world's poorest people. Right. When it's all about bonds and how much they cost and LIBOR and everything else. Well, they had that LIBOR scandal the other year as well, didn't they? If you remember. And it just tells you about it all here and everything else. How much it is. Class A, which is 225 million, was issued, and Class B, which is higher risk, 95 million. That's not. So you can pause this, you can read it. I'm going to leave a link anyway. But I just want to get down to this bit here. The conditions to trigger the bond must be in place for at least 12 weeks. After the designated start of the event for payouts to happen, after that they must be in place on a rolling 12-week basis. Right? It's funny how that the conditions to trigger the bond must be in place for at least 12 weeks, and Boris Johnson turned around and said we can turn the tide in 12 weeks. It's a bit strange. Yeah. Make of it what you will. I'm not making any claims. Make of it what you will. But conditions to trigger the bond must be in place for at least 12 weeks after the designated start of the event for payouts to happen. Boris Johnson turned around and said we can turn the tide in 12 weeks, like I've just shown you. That's not just Sky News. All the news, mainstream media news, were saying that, and that's what he said. Yeah. And it tells you about high risk and all that sort of stuff. Payouts triggered. As of March 2020, the Class A bonds were trading at a discount of 20 to 25%. Class B bonds were trading at a discount of 95%, reflecting the high risk that payouts would be triggered as a result of the 1928 C word. Yeah. It's about payouts, insurance windows, cash window, insurance window. It says more stringent criteria to trigger a payout than the cash window. And float for the C word, 195.83 million. It's not as much as pandemic flu or filovirus, it's 150 million. Rift Valley fever, Lassa fever, or Crimean Congo hemorrhagic fever. So I've showed some of these earlier on the on something else. I think I read it somewhere earlier. I'll find out if I showed it or not. If I didn't, I'll show it. I think I did actually on the one where the government website told you about the HCID or whatever, HCID or whatever, on my last video. Pandemic flu payouts are layered with a system of thresholds used to determine the amount payable. Then you've got the cash window and everything else. And there's something about criticism and stuff like that. I mean, if you go down to the C word, The PEF again going under criticism. Too stringent. The first tranche of money was not eligible to be released until 12 weeks after the start of the outbreak. So there's your 12 weeks again. So the money was not eligible to be released until 12 weeks after the start of the outbreak. And Boris Johnson turned around and said, we can turn the tide in 12 weeks. Make of it what you will. But it's there for you. And that's what they call it. That's what you call a bit of, what's the word I'm looking for? Investigative journalism. That's what I'll call it. Yeah. So there's that. So like I said, make of it what you will. Don't believe me, I'm going to leave links, go and have a look yourself. But I think it's a bit strange. And he said something about the end of June or something as well. There was something here. The maturity date of the 15th of July 2020. Right, so the bonds were sold to private investors in June 2017 with a maturity date of the 15th of July 2020, although it can be extended by 1 year. And then they were mentioning June, which is end of June or whatever, which is like 2 or 3 weeks before, or 3 or 4 weeks, whatever, before the 15th of July. So I don't know, but like I said, it mentions 12 weeks twice in here. So like I said, make of it what you will. But Boris Johnson said it can turn the tide in 12 weeks. But then it says the conditions to trigger the bond must be in place for at least 12 weeks after the designated start of the event for payouts to happen. Then a 12-week rolling after that. 12-week rolling basis after that. Yeah. And like I showed you here again, the C word, eligible to be released until 12 weeks after. So the money was not eligible to be released until 12 weeks after the start of the outbreak. Like I said, make of it what you will. I don't, do you know what I mean? Like I said, don't believe me. I'll leave links, go and have a look. Thank you.